Hi everyone, so welcome back to this, which is the third in our series of brief webinars on the subject of extended producer responsibility, but in particular the recyclability assessment requirements. In this third brief, we're going to clarify what constitutes a packaging component so that we can ensure that we're conducting those recyclability assessments on everything that we're supposed to in the way that is required. So in our first brief, we covered how large producers are now required to undertake recyclability assessments on every packaging component that is considered household packaging, that they're required to be reported every 6 months, and they're required to be completed against the recyclability assessment methodology, the RAM, rating every packaging component as either red, amber or green. And it's the results of these assessments that will affect the disposal fees paid via the modulation process. In our second brief, we explained what constitutes household packaging. So now we're going to take a more detailed look into how to define a packaging component. So in order to define the packaging components, there are a few rules that need to be applied. So primary packaging is generally comprised of different materials that are assembled together. Where these can be easily separated by hand, they are to be assessed separately under the individual material type. Where they can't be easily separated by hand, they should be assessed under the predominant material by weight, and if the materials are of equal weight, then they must be assessed separately under the relevant material categories. So if we go back to our jar of jam example, the primary packaging in this example is 3 different components: the glass jar, the aluminium lid, and the paper label. The lid and the jar can be easily separated by hand, therefore they are to be assessed separately with an individual RAG status for each, the jar following the glass rules and the lid following the aluminium rules. The label and the jar, however, can't be easily separated by hand, and so they are both to be assessed following the glass rules as the predominant material by weight. If they were of equal weight, however, there would need to be an assessment using the glass rules and an assessment using the paper rules. Each material must then be reported according to the regulations using the red, amber or green output assigned, and so the results would therefore be 3 different RAG statuses, one for the jar, one for the lid and one for the label. So we've defined the components, we then need to confirm the material type before we can apply the correct material rules of the RAM. And there are 8 different materials broken down into 10 different material types: paper and board, fibre-based composite for liquids, fibre-based composite for non-liquids, plastics, both rigid and flexible, steel, aluminium, glass, wood and other. And each packaging component has to be assessed under one of these categories. And if a producer isn't able to ascertain which of the material categories their packaging falls into, or the packaging doesn't fall within one of these categories, then it needs to be classified through the other route. And examples of materials that might be classed as other include things like cork, bamboo, ceramic, copper, hemp, rubber, silicone. Now, you would have thought that determining the packaging material category would be easy. However, yet again, there are some specific definitions and rules to be aware of. For example, fibre-based composite packaging that has a plastic content of less than 5% biomass should be assessed through the paper and board guidance. Rigid plastics are defined as things like tubs and pots that maintain their shape under normal use conditions, whereas flexible plastics, like bags, are those that change their shape when filled. And then finally, metallized films like crisp packets will need to be assessed under the predominant material by weight, likely either plastic or aluminium. As you can see, even what appears to be the simple considerations of recyclability assessments aren't so simple. And it's because of this complexity that we've developed a tool to help organisations undertake their assessments. We've turned these complex requirements for assessments into a very simple, step-by-step, user-friendly process that retains your records and generates the results for you. It also helps you to identify where the recyclability is not scoring so well, so you can see how you can improve the recyclability of your packaging and reduce your costs. The tool also helps you to revisit and quickly update your assessments when changes are made to the RAM, when changes are made to your packaging or to your products. And the tool also retains the records to back up your assessments, thereby providing a central location if and when staff changes happen. Our tool will do all that for you, and we're offering it very competitively because our mission is to simplify the complexity for everyone's benefit. So thank you all for listening today. I hope you've gained a little more clarity on how to determine your packaging components and the material types. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us and I'll answer them as best I can. And please come back to our page for the next instalment in this series, which will be covering how the fees are going to be calculated under the scheme. And please don't hesitate to email if you'd like a demo of our new tool. Thanks very much. Have a great day.